Long ago, in a land known as Zubari, there was a special village where animals and humans lived side by side in quiet harmony. In this village lived a girl named Nayela. She was known far and wide for her breathtaking beauty and a spirit as calm as a quiet stream. Her skin glowed like sunrise over the red soil, and her voice was as soft as a lullaby. The people of Zubari often whispered praises about her kindness and grace. Men from every corner of the village tried to win her heart. "Nayela," they would say, their eyes full of hope. "You are like the morning dew on banana leaves, pure and lovely. Will you be my wife?" But Nayela would always smile gently and reply, "I'm grateful, but I am not ready." Each morning, before the sun climbed high, Nayela would walk barefoot to the bustling market square. She sold the freshest plantains, mangoes, and leafy greens tied with woven palm strings. Her stall was the most visited, bright, fragrant, and always neatly arranged. Yet no one in the village knew where she came from or where she went when the market ended. She always left before the drummers played the evening rhythms, slipping away like mist from the river. Children would whisper behind baskets, "Where does Nayela go at night?" Old women selling yam flour would nod and say, "She vanishes like a moon shadow." But no matter how many eyes watched, no one could follow her. Nayela kept her world hidden. She gave kindness freely, but shared little of her own tale. And so, in the heart of Zubari, Nayela became a mystery wrapped in beauty, beloved but unknowable. The villagers spoke of her as if she were a spirit, soft like wind, gone like twilight. Then, on a bright morning filled with the scent of roasted maize and the hum of bees, a young man named Kumo arrived at the market. He had traveled from the hills of Baranga, searching for food for his aging mother. His sandals were dusty and his eyes held the spark of youth and dreams. When he saw Nayela arranging a bunch of guavas, his breath caught. By the ancestors, he thought, "This is the most beautiful soul I've ever laid eyes on." Kumo felt a flutter in his chest, the kind that drums louder than the talking drums. He walked to her stall, his voice soft but nervous. "Greetings, I am Kumo. May I know your name?" Nayela looked up with a smile like dawn breaking over a quiet lake. "I am Nayela. How may I help you today?" Kumo's heart danced. He bought cassava, even though he didn't need any. Then he stayed, asking about the crops, the clouds, the price of things he already bought. The two spoke with ease, and each word between them felt like a thread, sewing a new beginning. Kumo returned to the market the next day, and the next, always buying something, always hoping for her smile. Their friendship grew, quiet and soft like the growth of a baobab tree. But one evening, as the sun dipped behind the mountain ridge and the birds sang their farewell songs, Kumo noticed the market was nearly empty. He saw Nayela folding her cloths ready to leave. He stepped forward, concern in his voice. "Let me walk with you, Nayela. It's not safe to walk the trails alone after dark." She paused, eyes unreadable. But Kumo's insistence broke her silence. "All right," she said softly. They began walking, the air growing heavy with night. Crickets began to chirp. The path was narrow, bordered with tall grass that hissed in the wind. Then, without warning, Kumo felt a chill against his spine. A hand, cold as river stones, brushed the back of his neck. He spun around, nothing but darkness. His breath quickened. His heart thudded like a djembe drum struck too fast. Nayela walked ahead, quiet, calm. Her footsteps made no sound. Kumo froze. "Nayela," he whispered, his voice shaking. "I think I must turn back. It's too dark. Something doesn't feel right." She turned to him, her expression gentle but unreadable. "It's okay, Kumo," she said. "If you are frightened, you may return." Her voice was warm, but the air around them had grown colder. Kumo didn't wait. He nodded and turned, running, faster than he ever had, leaves crunching beneath his feet, fear riding his shoulders. He didn't stop until he reached his mother's hut in Baranga, heart still pounding, breath shallow. From that night on, he never returned to the Zubari market. Nayela watched the empty space where he once stood, her heart heavy with silence. The villagers soon noticed Kumo's absence. What happened to the boy from the hills, they asked. But no one had the answer. And Nayela? She continued her quiet life, helpful, kind, and alone. Yet deep within her, a sadness settled like dust on untouched drums. She missed Kumo's laughter, his curious eyes. But she knew the truth, something no villager could ever guess. Because Nayela was not from Zubari at all. Nayela longed for freedom, to choose her own path, to walk among people without hiding. So she made a bold choice. She would break away from her forest family and remain in Zubari village for good. One morning, she journeyed deep into the Numa forest, heart pounding like a drum. The air smelled of wet earth and old trees. Birds called above as if saying goodbye. There she faced her family. Her voice shook, but her eyes were clear. "I love you," she said, "but I must live as I choose. I want to make my own way among the people." Her parents said nothing for a long time. Then her father stepped forward, eyes full of sorrow. "We understand," he said. "But tread carefully, child. The world of men is not always kind." With a heavy heart, Nayela turned and walked away, leaving behind the only world she had known. She moved to Zubari village and continued selling her sweet fruits and vegetables in the market. Her secret stayed hidden. To the villagers, she was just the lovely, soft-spoken girl who brought joy to the market square. No one knew the enchantments she had left behind. Freedom tasted both sweet and bitter. Nayela was happy to choose her own path, but fear lingered in her bones. Would her past pull her back? To protect her choice, Nayela decided to seek help from the ancient spirit of Efoli, a wise force known for helping those seeking a new life. She made her way to the shrine of Efoli, hidden behind a waterfall where mist danced like silver spirits. There, she knelt on the cool stone before the glowing altar, her voice steady but low. "Great Efoli," she whispered, "I wish to break all ties with my kin in the forest. I want to live free, here in Zubari, without their reach." Efoli emerged like moonlight through smoke, watching her with kind but knowing eyes. "I hear your wish, Nayela," the spirit said. "I shall give you this freedom, but know this, your family will not let go easily. They may curse you in anger." Nayela closed her eyes and breathed deeply. "I understand," she said. "Even so, I must walk my own path." Efoli raised a glowing hand. With a hush like falling rain, the sacred bond was broken. But just as the spirit warned, the forest soon echoed with sorrow. Nayela's mother, overcome with pain, lifted her hands to the wind and whispered a curse. "May no human bring you lasting joy. May every love leave you longing." The wind carried her words, and the curse took root in silence. Back in Zubari, Nayela lived as before, kind, patient, always with a quiet smile. She hoped deep in her heart that despite the curse, she might still find love, a place to belong. Her days passed among the stalls and baskets, her laughter shared with neighbors, her sorrow kept hidden. Then, one golden morning, a traveler arrived. His name was Zubari, a merchant known in many villages for his colorful cloth and warm spirit. His clothes shimmered with patterns from the coast, and his voice rolled like a friendly drumbeat. When Zubari saw Nayela arranging her pineapples, his steps slowed. "Who is this radiant woman?" he wondered. He approached, smiling wide. "Greetings, I'm Zubari. I wander across lands selling beauty. You must be Nayela, the flower everyone speaks of." Nayela returned the smile, her voice like breeze on water. "That's me. It's good to meet you, Zubari." From that day on, Zubari visited Zubari more often, not just for trade, but for her. He brought fabrics, laughter, and stories. They talked under the shade, laughed over roasted ground nuts, and shared silences that spoke louder than words. As the days passed, Zubari's heart swelled with admiration, her kindness, her strength, her mystery. Eventually, he could no longer keep his feelings in. "Nayela," he said one afternoon, his voice full of hope. "I feel something true in my heart. Will you marry me and join my family?" Nayela's heart skipped. She had always been careful, her past full of warnings, her heart shadowed by the curse. But now hope stirred inside her like a fire catching dry leaves. "I would love to meet your family," she said quietly, eyes shining. Zubari beamed and prepared the journey. He brought her to his homeland, a village beyond the hills where the skies seemed wider and drums played at dawn. They walked hand in hand toward his family's home, and waiting at the door was Zubari's mother. In the village of Mbale, when Namboka stepped into Lumo's family compound, his mother's face tensed. The whispers she'd heard from travelers, from old women at the riverbanks, they all came back. "This girl is lovely," she thought, but something lingers around her, a silence too loud. She spoke with Namboka, her tone polite but distant. Then turning to her son, she said firmly, "Lumo, my heart is uneasy. There's a shadow following this girl. I will not accept her into our bloodline." Lumo stood frozen. His heart pulled toward Namboka, yet he couldn't defy his mother's words. Slowly, with sorrow painting his voice, he turned to Namboka and whispered, "I'm sorry. My mother says no. I must obey her." Namboka's chest tightened. She had dreamed of love, of a life unchained from her past. But her hopes crumbled like dry leaves. With glistening eyes, she nodded in silence and walked away from the compound, her footsteps heavy on the dusty road. She returned to Mbale, the curse clinging tighter than ever. Still, she moved through the days with grace, her pain hidden behind soft smiles. She clung to the hope that someday, someone would look beyond the shadows and see her true heart. But after losing Lumo, the burden of the curse felt heavier than ever before. Her spirit weary, Namboka knew she couldn't carry it alone. So she turned once more to the sacred path, back to the shrine of Efumbe, the spirit of crossroads and new beginnings. As the sun dipped behind the trees, casting gold across the Yao forest floor, Namboka knelt before Efumbe's altar. Her voice quivered but was steady with longing. "Great Efumbe, the weight I carry has stolen my joy. I beg you, lift this darkness from me so I may live with a heart unchained." A soft wind swept through the shrine, rustling the leaves like a whispered promise. Efumbe appeared, glowing like fireflies in moonlight. The spirit studied her face and spoke gently. "You have suffered much, Namboka. I can cleanse you of this sorrow, but it comes with a price." Namboka leaned in, her breath still. "You must keep your heart calm, always," said Efumbe. "Let no anger rise within you, or the curse shall return twice as strong." Without hesitation, Namboka bowed deeply. "I swear by the waters and the winds, I will stay soft. I will stay kind. Please lift this curse." Efumbe raised a glowing hand. A warm breeze spun around Namboka, lifting her braids gently and wrapping her in peace. The invisible chains snapped and the heaviness melted. For the first time in moons, she felt whole. Gratitude poured from her soul as she returned to Mbale. With every step, her spirit felt lighter. In the days that followed, Namboka walked the familiar path to the market, her baskets full of sweet maize and ripe guavas, her greetings warm, her smile gentle. People whispered, "That girl, she carries peace." None knew the pain she had overcome, or the battles fought in silence, but they saw her grace and admired her for it. She remembered her promise to Efumbe daily. When harsh words came, she stayed quiet. When old feelings stirred, she breathed deep. She would not break her vow, and deep inside she held on to hope. That one day, someone would love her, not despite her story, but because of it. One golden afternoon, as the sun spilled onto the path like honey, Namboka walked to the stream to fetch water. Sitting on a smooth stone, she watched the river dance, her thoughts floating with it. She missed laughter. She missed being held. Just then, a voice as warm as the wind called out gently, "Are you all right?" Startled, Namboka looked up. A tall man stood nearby. His eyes were kind, his smile like sunrise. "My name is Chikere," he said, stepping closer. "You seemed lost in thought, and I wanted to make sure you're okay." Her heart softened at his concern. "I'm Namboka," she said quietly. "Thank you for asking." They sat by the water, the stream humming beside them, and began to talk. For some time, Namboka and Chikere met by the village stream. Each meeting brought a deeper sense of connection as they shared stories and laughter. Namboka felt her heart begin to open to him. Chikere listened with patience and understanding, always making her feel seen and valued. Over time, their bond grew stronger, rooted in kindness and trust. One day, Chikere turned to Namboka and spoke with a sincere warmth in his voice. "Namboka, I care deeply for you. You are a remarkable person, and I want to spend my life with you." Namboka was taken aback. She felt a whirlwind of emotions, hope, fear, and a flicker of happiness. She hesitated, recalling the curse that had haunted her for so long, as well as her past heartbreak. But the sincerity in Chikere's eyes melted her worries. With a soft sigh, Namboka replied, "I care for you too, Chikere, but I've been through so much. Are you sure you want to be with someone like me?" Chikere smiled reassuringly, his eyes full of conviction. "I'm sure, Namboka. Let's build a life together." And so, they grew even closer. Chikere treated Namboka with respect and tenderness, and Namboka found herself growing fond of him, the way one begins to trust a gentle breeze that brings comfort. Soon, Chikere made his intentions clear. He wanted to marry Namboka and build a joyful life with her. With joy flooding her heart, Namboka accepted, and together they began planning their wedding, dreaming of a future filled with love and peace. For the first time in many years, Namboka dared to feel hope again. She believed that with Chikere, she could finally find the peace and acceptance she had longed for. The village buzzed with excitement, and Namboka felt a warmth blossoming within her, hopeful that this would mark the beginning of a beautiful new chapter. The day of their wedding arrived, and Mbale was alive with celebration. The village square was adorned with vibrant flowers and bright fluttering banners. The air was filled with laughter and music as villagers danced, clapped, and cheered, celebrating the union of Namboka and Chikere. Namboka looked radiant in her wedding dress, and Chikere couldn't stop smiling, the joy of the day reflected in his eyes. Surrounded by the laughter and blessings of their friends and family, they exchanged vows under the warm sun. The moment was perfect, and the air was thick with happiness. As evening settled in, the newlyweds retreated to their new home, excited to begin their life together. But just as they were about to rest, something strange and unsettling began to happen. Namboka felt an unease creep through her body. A chill ran down her spine, and she looked at Chikere with worry. In that instant, Namboka's body began to shift. Her legs fused together, her skin turned rough and scaly, and before either of them could understand what was happening, Namboka transformed into a massive serpent. Chikere's eyes widened in horror as he watched the transformation unfold. The love of his life had turned into a giant python before his very eyes. His heart raced, his mind spinning in disbelief. In a moment of pure fear, Chikere screamed, his voice cracking in terror. He stumbled backward, running out of their home and shouting for help. The villagers, startled by his cries, quickly gathered around, anxious and confused. When they saw Chikere, pale and trembling, pointing toward the house, they cautiously approached. The door creaked open, and out slithered the enormous python. The villagers gasped, backing away in fear, murmuring to each other in disbelief. They had never seen anything like it. Some of the elders, their voices tinged with dread, whispered, "Is this the curse we've heard of?" What was supposed to be a day of joy had turned into a night of confusion and terror. The village square, once full of laughter, was now silent, save for the whispers of fear and uncertainty. The villagers were paralyzed, unsure of what to do. The elders, recognizing the severity of the situation, called for the oracle. Perhaps, they thought, the oracle could provide answers to this shocking turn of events. The village was in turmoil, confusion spreading like wildfire as they awaited the oracle's arrival. The villagers gathered in the square, their voices hushed, all eyes on the giant python, once Namboka. The oracle, a wise and revered figure, stepped forward with calm authority, ready to provide guidance. "Come forward, Namboka," the oracle commanded. The giant python, slow and deliberate, slithered into the center of the gathered crowd. With a deep sigh, Namboka spoke, her voice heavy with sorrow. "I am Namboka," she began, her words filled with sadness. "I come from a family in the deep forest, a family that can change shapes. I am the only one who can take human form all the time. My parents forbade me to marry a human, fearing that it would bring trouble. They tried to scare away anyone who might love me, and I understand now that it was their curse that has followed me." The oracle nodded thoughtfully, understanding the pain behind Namboka's words, but there was still much more to uncover. Obiora's voice trembled as she continued. "I longed for a normal life, to find love and happiness just like everyone else. But when I severed my ties with my family, they cursed me. They said I would never find true happiness with a human." The villagers, who had always known Obiora as a gentle and kind soul, now listened with growing sympathy. The elders exchanged solemn glances and they turned to the oracle, who nodded in acknowledgement of Obiora's words. The oracle then turned to Chidubem. "Do you have anything to say?" they asked, their voice calm but firm. Chidubem, still shaken, hesitated before stepping forward. He could feel the weight of the situation bearing down on him. "Yes," he said, his voice trembling. "I was drawn to Obiora because of her beauty and kindness, but I also had other intentions. I thought I could use her to gain wealth and power. I planned to take her money and leave her once I had what I wanted." A gasp rippled through the crowd. The villagers, who had once seen Chidubem as a compassionate man, were now stunned. The elders looked at him with deep disappointment, while the oracle let out a heavy sigh. "You intended to betray Obiora's trust and use her for your own gain," the oracle said gravely. "This is a grave wrongdoing. Obiora sought only a normal life and love, but you saw her as a means to an end." Chidubem lowered his head, unable to meet anyone's eyes. The truth had come to light, and it was far more painful than he had imagined. The villagers stood in silence, their hearts heavy with the weight of the revelation. The oracle, standing at the center of the gathering, took a deep breath before speaking again. "Obiora sought peace and love, but you sought to use her for your gain. In this world, actions have consequences. Chidubem, you cannot escape the responsibility of your actions." The oracle turned to him, their voice now steady and final. "You cannot be freed from Obiora. You must stay with her as your wife. This is the consequence of your deceit and the lesson you must learn." A murmur spread through the crowd. The villagers were shocked by the oracle's decision, unsure of what to make of it. Some felt sympathy for Obiora, while others were uncertain about Chidubem's fate. But in the end, they all respected the oracle's wisdom. Chidubem stood, frozen, devastated by the weight of his actions. He glanced at Obiora, who still remained in her giant python form, her eyes full of sadness and resignation. It was clear to him now that he had no choice but to accept the oracle's decree. The oracle raised a hand to silence the murmurs. "This union must stand as a reminder of the importance of honesty, respect, and true intentions," they proclaimed. "Chidubem and Obiora will leave Duru village together and face whatever challenges lie ahead. Together they must find a new path, wherever it may lead." The villagers nodded, understanding the weight of the oracle's words. They knew that Chidubem's punishment was not just for him, but a lesson for all about the consequences of deceit and the value of true love. With the oracle's verdict spoken, the gathering began to disperse, the villagers whispering among themselves about the shocking events of the day. Chidubem and Obiora, bound by fate and the oracle's decree, prepared to leave the village. It was a difficult and uncertain future ahead, but they knew they had to face it together. As they walked through the village of Duru, some villagers watched them with sympathy, while others looked on with curiosity. The departure was somber, and the villagers knew the tale of love, betrayal, and redemption would echo through the village for a long time. Chidubem and Obiora walked toward the forest where Obiora's family lived. As they entered the dense woods, the air seemed different, more magical, more mysterious. Chidubem was nervous, unsure of what lay ahead, while Obiora, still in her python form, led the way. Finally, they arrived at a hidden clearing where Obiora's family resided. As they entered, members of Obiora's family appeared, each with their unique forms, some with animal features, others with ethereal and mystical appearances. Obiora and Chidubem walked quietly as they approached Obiora's family, who watched them in silence. Chidubem, feeling the weight of his past actions, stepped forward and bowed his head in a gesture of deep sincerity. "I am truly sorry for my intentions," he said, his voice filled with regret. "I tried to use Obiora for my own benefit, but I have learned my lesson. I accept the Oracle's judgment and ask for your forgiveness." Obiora's parents, who had long been concerned for her, listened intently. They could see the remorse in Chidubem's eyes and heard the seriousness in his voice. After a long moment of silence, Obiora's mother spoke. "We can see that you are genuinely sorry, Chidubem," she said softly. "We forgive you, but know this. Life here will not be easy. You must respect our ways and care for Obiora." Chidubem, overwhelmed with gratitude, nodded eagerly. "I understand, and I will do my best," he promised. With that, Obiora's family accepted Chidubem into their world, not as a perfect man, but as one who had shown remorse and was ready to learn and grow. Adapting to life in the forest was a challenge for Chidubem. The creatures who inhabited the magical realm were kind, but they had customs and ways that were vastly different from the village life he once knew. He worked hard, learning about the mystical world and the responsibilities it came with. Obiora, now free to live as herself, sometimes remained in her human form, while at other times she would take the shape of a python or another creature altogether. Chidubem learned to accept and appreciate all of her forms, understanding that love and understanding meant accepting her fully, just as she was. Together, they found a new rhythm in their lives. Away from the hustle and bustle of the village, they adapted to their new surroundings. Chidubem began to appreciate the tranquility and beauty of the forest. He helped Obiora's family with their daily tasks, becoming a part of their world and sharing in their lives. As time passed, Chidubem learned to accept his fate. Despite the difficulties, he found moments of peace and joy. Obiora, too, felt a sense of belonging. She was finally with her family and had someone who had chosen to stay with her, despite the challenges that came with their life. Together, they discovered a new kind of happiness, one that wasn't defined by the world they had once known. It was different, but fulfilling in its own unique way. They realized that love and acceptance could take many forms, and they embraced their new life in the magical forest, finding contentment and peace in their home.